this part here, FAQ. We'll get to that very shortly. After this, part 3 is where I break down the different components, the different phases, how about that, of a working clutch. So engagement, and then friction, actually you'll see a little bit disengagement, and then what I like to call seeing is believing. So I will show you everything that I've talked about. Now if that's not exciting on its own, I will have a bonus video that's interjected, focused solely on the Savage X4.6 and which clutch systems it supports. I can tell you now that I've tried a lot of them, more than anybody that I'm aware of, and I'm not bragging or anything like that, but
oh yeah, so, you are, Mr. You-know-who, you're bragging. What's up, Nitro Nation? Muggy Maniac is doing some serious wrenching. Like, here, I'll show you how serious it is. Holy snikes. Yeah, that's pretty serious. This is about as serious as the Muggy Maniac gets. This is when the shit's going down. Like, it's about to get real, people. What's up, Muggy Maniacs? Buggy Maniacs? Bam. Trucky Maniacs? Monster Truck Maniacs? Well, I guess. Definitely fifth scale, off the hook, Primal RC. Got that monster truck coming by Primal RC. You got MTXLs about to get rebuilt by Mr. Za. 5B, 5Ts, those Insaniac Fiscal guys. Anyway, welcome everybody. Newbies, middies, oldie but goodies, and new to subscribers. Welcome to the new subscribers. So, I feel like there's kind of a sense of urgency in the Nitro community. Now, as you guys know, the Muggy Maniac does his homework. I like to say that I'm a pretty good student. I'm not the best student, but I'm a pretty good student. I do my homework, do my studying, say my prayers, eat my vitamins. Remember that Hulk Hogan? Say my prayers, eat your vitamins, like all the Hulkamaniacs out there. I'm old school when it comes to wrestling. But anyway, and I look around and I check all, I'm always checking the channel, see what's going on in the tube, kind of keep me in the loop, so to speak. Especially the guys that are my subscribers. I try to help out as many people as I can. Now, there is lately certain subscribers, new subscribers, where I'm watching their videos and I'm like going, damn, this guy really needs some help. I mean, really needs some help. And some guys either are afraid to ask. I think some guys feel intimidated. When you get into Nitro, that's the first. Don't be intimidated by it. Okay, yeah, there can be challenging certain things. The motor, the tuning, all that stuff, right? I used to be the same way. But don't feel, intimidated. Okay? Attack that shit. Like I said, the only dumb question is the one that you don't ask. Okay? Ask and you shall receive. I like to say most people that have ever asked me questions, I always get back to you guys. Anybody that's ever needed help, I try to address it as soon as possible. I mean, I don't have a ton of subscribers, and I get it when you have like thousands of subscribers. It's hard, people bombarding you with questions to get back to everybody. And that's probably one of the reasons I don't care for my channel to really get too big, because I don't want to get to where there's so many people that need my help or that ask questions that I can't get back to them. I'd rather keep it to a minimum to where I can keep, I don't say keep track, but I'm able to answer every question that's commented to help people out. I even make videos like this video I'm making right now is partly because of one guy that has he has a lot of shit going on. He knows who he is. I'm not gonna, you know, mention the guy's name because I don't know, he might feel kind of shy or embarrassed or, you know, whatever. I mean, it's not like it's a secret. Some people will already know who he is, but he definitely will know who he is. But he's having a lot of clutch issues, and he's having a lot of servo issues. So let me take the mystery out of what's going on with this guy. And then there's another guy that's having electronic issues right now. One of the youngsters, you know, he knows who he is too. But I mean, part of the stuff that goes on that you run into in nitro, it's, you know, I hate to say it, but it's problems of your own making. I don't know if you guys ever heard that. You know, a lot of times we create our own headaches when we don't have to. You know, that's why, you know, let me try to help some people out that are just a little confused. I mean, I know people say I'm confused, but I don't think I'm confused. The only thing I'm confused is about certain people. That's all I'm confused. So again, let me emphasize, if you're using these, get rid of them. Those are headaches. If you're going to use these, just be warned, you're going to have headaches. Bottom line is, you're going to do what you want to do. These here, I don't give a shit what kind it is. This kind, digital, whatever. Get rid of these. I don't use switches, and I don't use these anymore, period. I don't know how many times I got to keep emphasizing that. If you're using that, man, you're a rookie, obviously. Or you're a newbie. Or you're just, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I don't use those anymore. You know? I mean, it seems like you guys take to heart a lot of things that I say. You know, and I'm not trying to brainwash or reprogram anybody. I'm just keeping it real, 100%, and telling you those things don't work for me. They're headaches, man. I don't know how many times I gotta say it. If you're dealing with old platforms, you're gonna run into situations. Don't even get old platforms if you don't got parts available. I don't know why. I learned a lot from this thing. Do I regret anything that I went through with the XTM Mammoth? No, because it taught me a lot of shit. Okay? And it made me, you know, like the old expression, if it doesn't kill you, and a nitro, if it doesn't nag you out and make you quit, it'll make you stronger. Okay? Just hang in there. So, when you get shit that's discontinued, old hot bodies, old Kyosho's, whatever, if you don't have the parts available when you break shit, then what are you gonna do? You can't run your shit because you got no parts, extra parts. Okay, so just make sure. And I love these classics and these things that they're discontinued, these platforms. Just make sure you can get the parts, you know, or just don't run it. You know, I don't run this thing a lot. I do run it. I do have enough spare parts. I can probably build another one. I have the monster truck version of this vehicle that only is missing a couple things that I'm still thinking of building. I'm either going to come down to building it eventually here, or getting rid and piecing it out and selling all these parts, because I got a lot of shit. Okay, the XTM Mammoth MT, which is their monster truck. This is the stadium version. It's their muggy version because of the way it's set up and the tires. I mean, people are like, well, how can you call that a muggy? Because they're used to the low-C muggy. Well, if you know what a muggy is, it's not a truggy and it's not a buggy. And a lot of it they base off their tires. These are the original tires that came on this thing. I've ran them before. There's no traction though. Especially with a Nova Rossi stock 28.8 with these tires, oh, forget it. You're not hooking up nothing. I mean, you can look at these things. I don't run them anymore because they're just enough pins left on them. These are the originals. You can't get these tires anymore, so these are definitely muggy tires. But anyway, so for my brother that's dealing with his electronic issues, I told him, listen, you gotta get real batteries. I messed around with those AA's and shitty batteries for a long time, and it almost cost me my vehicle. runaways and shit like that, when the switches went out, when these batteries, those type of Ford batteries, I had problems with them. And when I went to these ProTech Life batteries, and Reedy makes a Life battery. These are the two Life batteries that I use, and I use another one, which is more of the hump type battery. This goes in the Techno. So the Techno has the hump, square, little block one, and the long ones come in here. These are all Life. They're less than 30 bucks. I think this one was like, well, actually this one was like 32. This one was a little bit more. The Reedy Life battery, if you want a part number, you're going to have to do a pause. There's your part number. And they're 6.6, 1800, 1900, 1600. I think 1800, this is the biggest one they make in Life receivers. Or if you want to run lipos and chance your shit burning up, go ahead. I don't run lipos. I don't know, can you guys see that part? There you go. So those are the batteries I use. So that's the battery deal. Okay, now let's talk about servos. He asked, one of the guys said, affordable servo. Alright, a good servo that I use that is very torquey, pretty fast, not the fastest, but more important, very, very, very durable. I beat the shit out of these Savoxes up, and this is one I got replaced. Savox warranties are shit. If you ever have a problem with a Savox servo, contact them. They'll send you the label so you can mail the shit back. The one that goes out on you or something happens to it, and they send you a brand new one. Takes a few days. This is a brand new one that they replaced, because I pretty much, your endpoints are very important. When you run your endpoints too much, you're going to stress your servo out. I think that's what happened. But anyway, it went out, and they replaced it though. So here we go. So, but other than that, I mean, I've never had issues with these. These are Savox SC. Guys can see that? SC0254MG. Less than 30 bucks. Can't beat it. For racing, maybe not. Not fast enough, maybe not torquey enough, but for bashing, plenty. Alright, so here we go. This is what the meat and potatoes about the video's about. We've got various clutches. Okay, I've got 3-shoe, composite, aluminum, carbon. I've got 4-shoe, aluminum, carbon, plastic, and clutch bells. Okay, clutch bells with small inner bearings, clutch bells with larger inner bearings. Which are better? So one of the newbies asked me about clutches. Now, what I do know, I'm not real technical on the clutches. I learned from a lot from, believe it or not, from this Mr. You-know-who over here, when he actually used to be really, really good, had really good educational videos, and then this guy just went south for the winter. Will he come back? Who knows? I'm hoping, because his videos are really good, until he just started getting into all this weird audible voices shit and all these whack-ass videos and about stupid shit, and anyway, so I learned a lot from this guy. So I will tell you on clutches, when you are running, let's say for instance, and I don't want to dabble too much on clutches, but they are one of your tuning options. I don't care if your shit has the best tune on it. If your clutch isn't set up right, your shit is going to run like shit. And you're going to think it's your low-end needle, your high-end needle. You're going to, think it's, something wrong with your motor. And all it is your clutch. It's slipping. It's not hooking up. It doesn't have enough, when you're running clutches, springs, let's just say springs, for instance. Okay, if you're running on, it depends a lot on the surfaces you're running. If you're running on like concrete, most guys if you run on concrete a lot, then you're going to want to spring up. And spring up means you want a stiffer spring. Okay, when you're running on dirt and loose shit and muddy and, you know, gravel, whatever, grass, you're going to want to spring down, which means you're going to want to run a lighter spring. Okay? Now, I wouldn't get too caught up in... Now, Losi has their springs. Some companies have their springs. Let me set this up for you guys so you guys can see me or see what's going on here. Some springs are colored. Now, the problem with the colored springs is the colors don't always stay colored. And you go by, you know, light spring, green color, you know, medium spring, whatever the colors be. This is how I tell the tension of my springs. When I put it in my, this is a 4-shoe clutch. I go like this. Can you guys see that? And I can feel if it's a, you know, if it's a medium, light, heavy. That's kind of a medium. That's the aluminum. Carbon, that's a heavy. Medium, so there's medium and heavy springs on here. Okay, can you mix your springs? Sure, it's not going to hurt anything. You know, that's more of a, again, medium. These are pretty much medium springs on here. That's light. I can feel the way the tension is. I can feel it. That's a light spring. Okay, so you'll be able to me personally, I'm able to tell light, medium, heavy springs by the way, once I put them on the flywheels, I can click them like that's a light, I can feel that's a light spring, okay? And then I can feel this one, yeah, that's like a medium, and then you'll feel the heavy. So, now one thing, remember, aluminum clutch shoes are lighter than plastic. Aluminum's pretty light, but you would think plastic would be lighter. Well, quite to the contrary, it's not. That's a fact. You can weigh them if you want, whatever. So, a heavy, and this is how it works, and this is how it was explained by certain people. When this deal here turns, when it rotates, it's called rotating mass. It's called centrifugal force. When the flywheel rotates, the heavier shoe is obviously going to come out quicker. At lower RPMs, it's going to engage quicker. And obviously, the opposite with the plastic, it's going to come out later because it's lighter. Okay? So when you're running, that's why I run plastic or carbon shoes and aluminum. I run a combination of both. Now, I can tell you that the aluminum and the composite or plastic shoes combo is what works for me. So I can only tell you what works for me. And it's all going to depend on the motor also. That's obviously important. Different motors are going to have different reactions to different clutches. I can tell you one thing. I've ran stock, plenty of stock, 0.21s, 0.28s, and 0.25s. I ran plenty of modded 0.21s, modded and stock. The only thing I haven't ran modded is a 0.32. I ran a stock 0.32. Okay, which will be my next thing. Now, unfortunately, when I show you the 0.32, that's the only one that's out there, really, a lot of the issues with it, I mean, that's why I'm really not big on it, and I don't plug the motor a lot, even though it is a bigger motor. Okay, I'm plugging more on the 28s. Unfortunately, we've got more of the 28s out there, and then we do 25s also, and then we've got 0.32s. There's a majority of 0.21s and 0.28s on the market in nitro. Period. End of story. That's a fact. Okay, you know, and I wish we had more 0.32s. We don't need any more 0.21s because there's plenty. And we'll get into that in a minute too. But anyway, thicker, heavier springs are better for stock motors. So you're going to want to run a medium to a heavy spring on whether it's a 4-shoe or a 3-shoe clutch on a stock motor because it needs more help because it's stock. Now on a modified motor, you don't need that much. You don't need any help. So you want to go lighter springs. And if you do use medium springs, obviously going to pull wheelies. It's going to be torqued in hell, and it's going to have a lot of bottom end, and that's great. But you're going to burn through a lot of clutch shoes. And if you've got the money to spend $25 every time you buy four of these little tiny shoes, crazy, I know. Every time you buy 4 of these little babies, you're paying around 25 bucks, maybe more, for 4 of these little plastic, aluminum, composite, whatever. It's not cheap. So you might want to make your clutch shoes last. That's why I use 2 shoes right now. There's one other shoe out there that I want to try. I know Raja uses them. King Heads makes some, he said, pretty good affordable for 4 shoe clutches. Now, what I use for 4 shoe clutches right now is I use a combination of Serpent, and I also use the Dynamite Max Life. Okay, which I've been having good. This combo that I'm using is money. I'm telling you, man. You can see my shit. My shit pulls the front end up. We're pulling wheelies. I got plenty of torque. The shoes are wearing really good, and I like the shoes. I'm running the combination of 2 of these Serpents. Okay, where are they at? Where's my Serpent tag, people? 2 Serpents clutch shoes, and 2 Dynamite clutch shoes. Okay, these are the springs, but this is the company, Serpent. Okay, and I'm using soft, which this is usually soft is a 09. These are an 085, so these are really soft springs. These are the clutch springs. I use the Serpent soft clutch springs and the Serpent carbon clutches. And I use these here, the Dynamite Max Life, okay, that are for the Losi 8T, okay, and I use Losi clutches, and I use Serpent clutches. I use different, there's different ones you can use. This is an actual Serpent clutch bell, 13 tooth. Okay, now I suggest on buggies, as far as the clutch bells, 13. If you got a modified, you can run 14, but even with my modified reds, I run a 13 pinion. Okay, even with my modify, it's a buggy, 4 shoe clutches are recommended for truggies, and I agree, because it's a bigger vehicle, a little bit more weight, just a little bit more to push. So 4 shoe is gonna help push that truggy more. To where 3 shoe is good for a buggy. Now I've run 4 shoes on buggies too, but 3 shoes fine. Now when you're running 3 shoe clutches, there's different types of shoes as well. You've got composite, aluminum, and carbon. These are a standard aluminum 3 shoe clutches. This is what the clutch shoes look like. Okay? The springs are also different. Okay? These are the springs for 3 shoe. And if you've ever seen the springs for 4 shoe, like I don't know if you guys can see that, they're tiny. Tiny little boogers. And you gotta make sure, also another thing I've seen guys do, clutch shoes, okay, this is a 3 shoe clutch. Your clutch shoes, make sure you put them on the right way. I've seen guys put them on backwards. Okay, see this right here? Can you guys see that? This part here goes facing clockwise. Don't put your shit on this way, backwards. No bueno, people. See that? No bueno. This is the way they go, or your shit ain't gonna work. So make sure that the part of the clutch shoe goes facing clockwise. Okay, clockwise. All right, and the same any shoe, whether it's 3 or 4. Matter of fact, I got a 4 shoe that came on. I think it came on my OS, which is this motor here. And on the 4 shoe clutches, like this, the shoes were facing the other way. No wonder the shit wasn't hooking up right. So anyway, when you get oil or a bearing goes out on your clutch, your clutch, your shit won't hook up. You'll go to get on it. It'll seem like it's lagging. It won't have the top end that it should just because your clutch is slipping. Also, what happens sometimes is when your clutch shoes, I've broken springs. I've busted springs running my shit. Now, when you break the springs, what's happening here is your shoe is sticking out. It's staying out. Anything that's abnormal and abrupts it or affects the rotation of your flywheel, your motor's not going to idle right. It's going to quit on you all the time. I had plenty of issues like that where I thought it was my idle was wrong, my high-end needle was wrong, or I mean my low-end needle was wrong, and all along it was my damn clutch. Clutch shoes were hanging up because the spring broke, or broke and the clutch wasn't, the shoes weren't coming out. And that will affect your idle and the way that it performs. Now, another thing too, real quick on clutch bells. Certain clutch bells have the big oversized bearing on the inside, like this. This is a ProTech, I believe, yeah. And it has the large bearing on the inside and then the small one on the outside. Now, these are, I recommend these clutch bells are the best ones. Because of that bigger bearing, it just rotates better. The bearing lasts a lot longer because of the oversized bearing. Those I recommend more than the standard ones, which are like these, that have the smaller bearing on the inside. But these are still good, okay? So, but these are obviously the better ones with the oversized bearing in the inside, okay? Now shoes, if you're going to run 3 shoes, I recommend these. These are Dynamite Max Life. They make Max Life 4-shoe clutches, which are, you know, these little ones. These are for your 4-shoe. These are Dynamite Max Life. But I didn't know until I found them. Dynamite also for 3-shoe clutches, which is what this is for. These are aluminum Max Life for the 3-shoe. These are awesome. I use these too, and I run 3-shoe a lot of my buggies on my Mugen MBX5R race buggy. I use 3-shoe, and now I'm using the Dynamite Max Life 3-shoes, which will last longer, and these things hook up. So anyway. Also, one last thing. Flywheels come aluminum, and there is some steel. Now, when it comes to flywheels, the reason a lot of times a heavy flywheel will work better than of an aluminum, and it goes back when I used to ride dirt bikes. If you guys know anything about 2-stroke dirt bikes, when they used to be, now they're all 4-stroke. I used to run, my last bike I owned was a Yamaha YZ250. Now, it was ported, polished, had a pipe on it, pro circuit pipe, badass, okay? I ran a lot of desert and I ran a lot of trails, and I like more of a smooth power band. And I like it hooking up, okay? But I like it smooth. I like the erratic stuff too. And to smooth the power band out on a 2-stroke, you put a heavy flywheel on it, and what that does is it tones it down to where you're getting more hookup than just spinning and, you know, that low end spin and snap. And it's the same on nitro motors. When you put a heavier flywheel on your shit, you're going to get a little bit more bite and hookup, okay? But it's not going to be as snappy and it's not going to be as quick. If that makes any sense. Most people run aluminum, okay? Which, I mean, I do. I think I might have one steel clutch. Flywheel. But anyway, so that's pretty much on the clutches. You set it up the way you want. There's Buku makes clutches. You know, there's the Dynamite ones. There's the Losi ones. Serpent. I mean, there's so many out there. Just decide what you're going to use. 3-shoe, 4-shoe, okay? All I can tell you, like I said, that's the way that I check my tension on my springs, because sometimes these springs, over time, the colors will fade and you'll get it mixed up and you won't know what spring's light and which is medium. The only way that you're going to know is by assembling it and then checking the tension yourself, and you'll be able to feel, okay, that's a heavy spring. Well, that feels like a medium, that feels light. And I usually run medium and light. I mostly run light on my modded motors because the clutches will last long, they hook up, and it doesn't need a heavy spring. Now on a stock motor, which I don't even really run stock anymore, even though I have some still, my stock 28.8 Rex Legend, I run pretty heavy springs on it because obviously I want it to hook up as much as I can, and it's stock, so it needs a little bit more help. Even though those motors, stock, the 20.8s are badass. Alright, so that's enough on clutches. I don't want to spend too much time. I think we spent like almost 20 minutes on that. Now we're going to talk about motors. Now, these are some of the motors that I have. I've got stock, I've got modded. Now I took down 3 of what I think are probably the most popular motors. They're the ones that one of them I don't use a lot yet, but I know a lot of people have them, a lot of people want them, a lot of people are still getting them, and I want to touch on a motor. But then there's, another motor that I've been running, and price-wise, this motor here, which is the Pico P3 .28 7-port, is price-wise, this is probably one of the best buys. Even better buy than the Nova Rossi, if your pockets aren't that deep. Is it better quality than that? Well, not better, but it's pretty close. This Pico, and this isn't the first time I've taken this thing apart. I've taken all my motors apart at one time or another. And I used to be intimidated by it when I, taking my motors apart, because I was like, well, what if I don't put it together right and I mess it up? Hey, as long as you follow standard procedure, and as long as you know what you're doing, and if you don't, YouTube your shit, and you'll get it figured out. Just be careful when you're doing it, okay? If you feel intimidated by taking your motors apart, then by all means don't. Now, this is not going to pertain to the newbies, even though I think it's important that the newbies, you new guys in Nitro, they don't have a lot of experience in modded motors and stock motors and taking them apart and maintaining them, then don't do it then, okay? But there's going to come a time where you want to do this, and the sooner the better, because this is going to make or break the longevity of your motor, the way that it performs or not, and how easy or not easy it is to tune. One of your tuning options, when we've been talking about tuning, is making sure that your shit is upkeep. If your shit isn't upkept, maintained, don't expect to get the perfect tune, if there is such a thing, okay, or get it dialed in, because you have to do this. If you don't want to do this here, what I'm showing you, quit Nitro, go get an E-word, okay? That's about as blunt as I can put it. And the Muggy Maniac is not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm not going to blow smoke up nobody's ass, because I don't care if people subscribe or they unsubscribe. That's the one other thing I wanted to kind of touch on real quick. I see guys give kudos and props to guys, and I watch the same video and I critique them, because I want to help people. And that's funny. You see these guys, oh man, thumbs up, that was a great run. And the thing ran like shit. Why are you peoples out there afraid to tell people the truth? And I think that's what it is. Guys are afraid to tell the truth because they don't want to lose a subscriber. They don't want to jeopardize a rating. They don't want to get a thumbs down. You know what I say about that, right? You guys already know how I feel about that. Fuck that. I don't care. If you're going to get butthurt because I'm giving you constructive criticism, and that's all that it is. It's constructive criticism. Do you guys even know what that is? Let me educate you. Now, the Muggy Maniac is not, the sharpest knife in the drawer, okay? But I'm not the dullest one either. Constructive criticism is when you criticize something you tell somebody, and this is the way that I do it. I tell somebody, you know what? That's good, man. You're doing a good job. Kudos to you. I like this. I like that. There's a way to do it, a psychology to it. If you just tell somebody, listen, man, your stuff sucks, excuse my language, cock. Your stuff sucks nuts. Your shit is fucking booty. And then you try to tell the guy, but you know what, I like the way you do this, and pump the brakes. That shit doesn't work. That's not how you encourage people. That discourages people. So what I've learned to do is I tell them the shit. It's called, and this is where I've learned this because I've done a lot of management in my time. Managed businesses, been a supervisor, all that. And there's a thing that's called build, break, build that you learn to use if you want to have good people skills. I think that's another reason that I'm pretty good at doing videos now, because I think my people skills are pretty good. Even though the Muggy Maniac can get kind of off the hook and crazy and really random and talk shit and all. Well, you know what? You know why I can do that? Because I can. You know why? Because I can. Because this is my channel. If you guys want to do whatever you want to do and make the comments and throw in your 2 cents, you know what I'm saying? And you have no weight to what you're saying, go do your own fucking channel, excuse my language, and you can do what the hell you want. But this is my channel, so you go by my rules, or you don't play at all. You unsubscribe. I don't care. Or I block you from commenting, and that, you know, I was going to touch on that too real quick. People might get hurt because I'm just going to block you. If you don't have any content or nothing, and you're a guy, whether you're a troll or not, I don't mean that everybody that doesn't have a picture on their YouTube channel doesn't have any content is a troll. What I was trying to make my point about that is, if you're somebody that's not even into Nitro at all, and you need me to entertain you, or you watch I'm not the guy. Go watch Nitro Nerd. That guy will entertain you with his fancy schmancy videos and his cool audible voices and his jams in the background, bumping his music and all his, you know, special effects. Me, I don't do all that shit. So I just keep it real. Okay? So anyway, go watch them. I'm not the guy to entertain you. I don't understand why people even will watch my video if you have nothing, if you don't even do Nitro. You're that bored? Get a life. I don't know what to tell you. You know what I'm saying? And if I block people like that for making comments, they shouldn't really care anyway. They don't need to be making comments because they know nothing about Nitro, very little or nothing, and they don't do Nitro, so they don't need to make any comments. So when I go and check people's channel, and I've done a lot in the last couple days, and I'm going to continue to do it, okay? I'm going to go on somebody's channel, I'm going to check their shit. If they don't have any content, if they've made a comment, which leads me to believe that they have nothing to do or no interest in 8-scale Nitro or RC at all, then I'm just going to block them, period. Just right off the get-go. They don't need to make comments anyway. They can watch all they want, because I can't control who watches. You can watch, and if you want, if this is entertainment for you, then that's fine, even though that's not what I intend this to be. Okay? But you're just not going to make comments on any of my shit. Period. End of story. So anyway, that's that. So anyway, when you tell somebody something, you build them up. You say, you know what, that's your platform, man. Your shit is rocking. Your shit is dialed. Man, your shit is off the hook, bro. But, and this is where you critique him. But, you might want to change that. Because I've done that, and if you run it like that, you're going to break your shit. Or if you continue to do this, you are going to have a lot of headaches. But, like I said, man, good job. Keep up the good work. I think you did a kick-ass job on this. And do you guys get my point? That's the way you if you have any type of people skills, that's the way you handle it. That's the way that I like to do. Tell them, listen, you got a valid point. You are absolutely right. But let me tell you from experience, this and this and that shit don't work. And this, that'll fuck you all up. Okay, excuse my language again. Okay, but you are right. That's how you encourage people. You don't fucking chop their legs off and then try to pick them up and say, hey, you're doing a good job. That don't work. It has never worked, and I don't think it ever will work. Okay, so there is a lot of newbies, okay? A lot of guys that have less than a year experience, you know, but I know there's guys on my channel that watch that have some experience under their belt. And this is where we're going to get into the meat and potatoes. Okay, we're coming on 40 minutes, so maybe this will be another hour video. I don't know. I'm trying to make some short videos. I mean, this one is going to be a lot because either that or I can do a part 2, but I'd rather kind of just cover most of the basics and basics of this all in one. Now, we talked about one of the other tuning options, and one of the things that is important to tuning, which is your clutch. Okay, that's important to your tune. We talked about head shims. That is just not important, but it is a tuning option. Okay, which I'm going to get to this Pico and show you why the head shimming is important. Okay, especially on modifieds. So anyway, we're going to start, and I'm going to start with, okay, these are some of my motors, Most of my motors anyway, and there's some that are in my vehicle still that I didn't take out. I got the Novorossi 28.8s, modded, stock. These are the first motors that I had. Now, none of these have internals, okay? Now, I'm going to go down the line, and we're going to go by, you know, from the best to the worst. From great quality Italian motors to rice burners that are good to rice burners that suck, okay? I stay away from most Asian motors. If it's not made in Italy, the muggy is not fucking with it. Okay, I can't put that any more blunt than that. Because I see guys, you know, that like motors, like me. Who doesn't? If you're a nitro head, you like motors. But I'm not like John, I think, even does too. He has all these motors. I'm not collecting motors other than conversational pieces if they're piece of shits. I don't want to collect a bunch of garbage. I believe in quality, not quantity. And I don't know how many times I've emphasized that. I'd rather have a dozen quality motors in my collection than 30 piece of shits. That's just me. If you like having those, and I would think they're mostly for either sentimental value or, you know, conversational pieces, then that's fine. I had my share of my bullshit motors, and I kept some of the ones just for conversational pieces, and it remind me why I don't want to deal with those motors anymore, because I don't run them. The only quality motor, decent quality, and it's still bottom of the barrel, in my opinion, is the Offna. That's my first back sealed motor, and I sealed that motor myself, because this Hyper 21 did not come with a sealed backplate. It came with some turbo fan bullshit. I wish I would have kept all my pull starts and backplates that I've taken off, roto starts and shit, but I tossed them. I should have kept them just so I can, you know, make examples of them, but you guys should already know by now. Pull starts, roto starts, it's all robbing your power. It's all a waste of time. It's all a fucking headache. That's probably why you know who has a hard-on for me, because he runs pull starts still, and for whatever reason he thinks they're, you know, what he calls RTRs are badass. You can make an RTR badass. That's what I'm just quoting what he said. I like to take something that's ready to run and make it a badass. Well, whatever, go for it. Knock yourself out. I just rather start with quality. I can take a piece of shit and make it decent too, but I'm past all that. I don't got time for all that bullshit. I'm into dealing with quality motors from the get-go and even making them better. And how do I make quality motors better? I get them modified. That's how I make them better. Okay, I'm not into getting an RTR pull start and then going through all the shit and putting a backplate. You just buy a motor with a backplate on it. You don't need to put one on there unless it's a classic that doesn't come with one and you want to convert it. Then that's fine too. But this was my first sealed motor, Offna Hyper .21. They don't make these things anymore. And this little badass, I think I'm going to bring it out of retirement here one of these days soon. This was the first motor that ran in my MBX Mugen, my MBX 5. R buggy was this thing. Badass. I maintain it. I keep it, you know, upkeep it. It's constantly, every once in a while, I take it off the shelf, rip it down, and just make sure the internals are still okay. Even though it's got 3-in-1 in it, or Marlboro Mistral oil, and that shit's been sitting for a while. I haven't ran this motor in, geez, probably almost 2 years now. And I bet you this thing fires right up. Matter of fact, this is not the Offna carburetor on here. This is a Kyosho carburetor that comes on the Kyosho .25 RTR motors. And by the way, this same carburetor is the carburetor that I run on the LRP .32 currently. That runs way better than any LRP. Any LRP. I don't care if it's an X-Tech, X whatever. Any LRP carburetor is a pile of shit. Do not try to tune it. You're not going to get it tuned. If you get it tuned and you think that that's a good tune, because you can get it tuned, but compared to a Novorossi carburetor or even an OS or a Reds or a Pico, those are shitty carburetors. All LRP carburetors are garbage. They suck balls. Don't even fuck with them unless you want headaches. Okay, so anyway, I don't know how many times I can emphasize that. I've emphasized it many times. But anyway, so that was the first motor that I had sealed. Now, the second motor, obviously, that I got was a Novorossi Rex Legend 28.8. This one's modified, but it was my stock, which is still I still run. It's got the most fuel most of my blah blah blah. It's got the most fuel to it of my motors. It's got coming on 3 gallons now, about 2.5 maybe, and that thing runs strong as hell, man. It's stock, and I left it stock, and I've got one modified. I'm getting another one modified. You know, I love 20.8 Rex Legends. They're my favorite, but brings me to the Pico here. This Pico is a nasty, nasty little booger. This is a badass P3.28 that I got modded. I never ran this thing stock. The reason I never ran it stock is because all my people that I knew that had them warned me that if I do run it stock, it's going to be really, really, really pain in the ass to get broken in because these motors are very tight. Very tight motor. It's still tight and it's got over 1 gallon through it. But when it's tight like that, even after that much fuel through it, it just means it's going to last a lot longer, okay? It's got a really, really good pinch in it, even after, you know, 1 gallon or more of fuel, which is good. You know, this is not a bad thing when you have a lot of pinch. But anyway, so that was my first, that was my second. These motors came in a lot with that OFNA, so this was kind of only decent motor that I got out of it. I had to put a carburetor on it, and I got a backplate, and boom. I paid $40 for this and these other 3. This is an XTM 0.18. Brand new, never been ran. It's got a few things missing. It needs a backplate if they make one for that tiny thing. I would never run that in anything but maybe a 10th scale, if that. And that's on-road, and I'm not into on-road. Maybe one of these days, who knows. This is the first motor that I blew. Okay, Mr. Jones, you have this motor, I believe. Now, I don't know how you got a backplate on it because they don't seal these motors unless it's a 28 that you have. They make a 24.7, which is this, and XTM makes a 20.28, which has a backplate that you can get for it. This, they don't make a backplate. The 24.7, I tried, I looked. One guy had one, but he custom machined it. Decent motor, but it was a pull start motor. The original ones are pull starts. XTM, garbage. Garbage, 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 garbage. This is another OFNA Hyper 21 that's everything's here except for the rod, the piston, and it needs a backplate and a carburetor. Oh, and a sleeve. So that's about 150 something bucks. I can build this motor. Now, if I ever do this motor, I will get it modded. I told Rick about it. He said, well, if you can find the parts for it and get it put together, send it to me. I'll mod the shit out of that little Hyper 21 because it's a good motor. Okay? But I'd rather just spend the 150. I can get another one of these Picos for that. But they don't make those anymore, man. I might end up doing that. Get that off the Hyper 21 modified like a mother and just, you know, run it here and there for shits and giggles. Maybe put it in a... That would be a perfect classic motor. If anybody has a Hyper 7 or a Habai or whatever, maybe I might get a Hyper 7, build this motor, get it modified, and stick this modified little badass here in a Hyper. Because that's an OFNA Hyper. That's the motor. They designed that motor, this Hyper 21, for that platform. And I've ran this one, like I said, in my Mugen. This thing kicks ass for an old. And this thing here is made in Taiwan, okay? And it's okay quality, but it's even better quality than some of the other motors. But I don't run rice burners. The only other rice burner that I have, well, I have 2 more, but if you're going to run rice burners, this is the best rice burner that you can own. If you're going to go rice burners, OS. But these are OS's lower models. The XRs, the XMAX, those of you guys that have the OS's, the XRs and the XTX, whatever they are, and all those whatever, those are OS's low-end motors. Don't get that twisted. These are not the speed motors. Is it a good motor? Yes, but it is not anything near the OS Speedline motors. Those Speedline motors, the Drakes and all those, and the ones that Ty Testman runs, okay, those are $400 or $500 motors. These are maybe 300 max. Are they good motors? Yes. Are they great motors? No, not for OS. This is OS's low end. All the OS motors, and anybody that has those, XRs, XMAX, XEs, those are OS's low end modeled, or low end makes. But they're good motors. And the only reason I got this is because I paid $150 for this with a pipe, with a clutch, shoes, and all that. I couldn't pass it up. And it's brand new. Never had it. I'm the first one to run it. Ran it, broke it in, a little bit of 30%, shut it down. This is getting modified by Rick. Now, when this thing gets modded, you guys will see it here in the next few months. This is going to be a sick-ass motor. Because this thing, I ran it stock, and it's badass. But it's going to be bad mamma jamma. So, anyway. So, the Speedline motors, they have DLC-coated cranks. They have ceramic bearings. They're just way better quality than those OS X's and X-Max and XRs. Those are the low ends. So, anyway. Those are the only rice burners if I was going to run that I would run. Now, another rice burner here, okay, we'll start out with quality. Now, obviously, the best quality motor, and if you look at it, I will show you, is, to me, the Reds. This is the crank. I'm going to show you pieces of it and compare. This is the crank. This is a Reds crank. I mean, look at this thing. Can I ever get it? There we go. This thing is a work of art. I mean, this is a beautiful, beautiful. I mean, the way the Reds make their shit, okay, look at the piston. By the way, piston, this is the way, the color it should look. Okay. I mean, look at the piston. They even have their name engraved down there. I don't know if you guys can see it. The rod. Reds. I mean, this is quality, people. I mean, look at the back plate. They call it a diamond back plate. Smooth. It doesn't have any cutouts. Nothing in it. Most back plates, you'll see the other motors that I'm going to show you have cutouts. Smooth. Light out. It feels like titanium, but it's aluminum. I mean, look at the work that they put into this thing. Can you guys see that? I mean, please. And you want to see a button head? You know what a button head is, right? This is a standard button head. This is what a button head. This is where your plug goes in, your fire chamber, all that. This is a Reds button head. Bam! Look at that shit. Now that's a fucking, excuse my language, a button head. I'm telling you, man, Reds aren't playing. Oop, there's one of my shims just fell out. Reds aren't playing, man. I mean, quality, people. This is quality. This is quality shit. Here's the Reds. This is the Reds R5 Team Edition, what I'm showing you. Yes, it's been modded by Rick. I mean, money, man. This thing is, I mean, the head, nice, pretty head, machined head. There you go. There's the RB Mods tattoo on there. Here's the block. Beautiful block. I mean, look at the insides, the internals. I mean, this is quality. This is even better quality. As much as I love my Novas, this Reds is better quality than the Nova Rossies. Better quality than anything I've taken apart. And I've taken apart pretty much all of them. All the top-end motors. OS, Reds, LRPs, Nova Rossies, OFNAs, Picos. I've taken them all apart and inspected them all. Remember, this is what I do for a living, people. I work with metals. All kinds of metals. So I appreciate machine work done like this. This is like sick ass shit. It's a piece of jewelry, man. I'll put a freaking chain through this and wear this around my neck. Or actually, I would wear this. I'd take this, put I'm not into gold, so I'd take a silver chain, thick rope chain, and I would hang this around my neck. It'd be my bling bling. So that's the Reds. Killer quality. The Nova, I'm not taking it apart because this next motor I'm going to show you represents what a Nova is. And remember, this next motor I'm going to show you is the company that makes Reds motors anyway. That makes the blocks. This is a badass motor. Okay? Some of you guys have them, some of you guys don't have them. Hands down, quality-wise. Italian's Italian. Now here's the Pico. Pico. Okay, there's your back plate. Yeah, it's okay. It's not nothing major. Not fancy schmancy. And see how I'm talking about? See how it has the notches? They have these notches in there. And when you're taking these back plates out, make sure your piston is all the way up. Or as up far as you can. Because if not, what's going to happen is you're going to go to pull the back plate out and see this part of the piston, you're going to catch that. And you'll, excuse my language, fuck your piston up. Now, why I'm showing you, this is the Pico P3.28. Quality, man. This is some quality. Look at the ports. Let me show you what quality porting looks like, people, just in case you don't know. Can you guys see that? Quality porting. There's no focus. No jagged edges. When you look in the ports, you see where they polish the ports out and nice and smooth. Okay? There's no rough edges on this thing. Quality. Button head, nothing fancy. Cooling head, nothing fancy. Crank though? Nice crank. Not like the Reds though. Nice. Decent. If you check your crank, and this is where your fuel's coming in, if you see a lot of abrasive scuffing in here, that means your filter isn't doing the job, or you're not keeping it clean enough. This here, you should have no scuffing at all. This should be nice and silky smooth. Okay? That shows that my filters are doing their job. Because when you get dirt in here, this is where it's going to show up. Okay? And here we go. That's the block. Quality, quality, quality. Pico quality, people. Italian shit. That's why I don't fuck with anything else but Italians anymore. If it ain't Italian, the Muggy Maniac doesn't want it in my face. If it ain't of the Italian race, it don't belong in the Muggy's face. Quality, man. That's what I'm talking about. Now, another thing about my Pico, I touch real quick. I only got a few minutes left. See the top of this piston? That's too much carbon buildup. Now, is that a bad thing? Not really. Now, the reason, and look at the button head. See that? That's not no bueno. See how dark it is? It's too rich. All that darkness, this is the Reds. That's what your chamber should look like. Your combustion chamber, where your plug sets in. This is an example of what it should look like. This is what it shouldn't look like. This is too rich. And the reason that this is happening is because I had to remember, Rick said after you break in these Picos, most motors, you want to remove a shim. There's 3 shims in here. I'm taking one out. And what that does, it's going to lower the compression down, and it's going to make it so it's not as running as, and this running rich, this doesn't have anything to do with me running it rich. It's just the motor is burning too rich because the head is too far up on top. It's too far up above the burn chamber, okay, and it's causing too much carbon buildup, okay. By removing a shim, and that's the problem that was happening. This here is what the Reds looked like before I removed the shim. You can see how it's burned off now. Now it's fine. See that? Now it's okay. That's normal right there. This is too much. That's too much buildup. Now the good thing about carbon buildup is not a negative, because carbon buildup protects your motor. So if your motor does overheat or gets hot, the carbon will burn off, not the aluminum, which is what you want. So anyway, I'm going to remove a shim out of the Pico. Okay, obviously the performance, the tuning is going to change again, but no worries. Now this is the last motor, and I'm only going to get a few minutes on this, and then I'm going to bounce because I'm pushing an hour right now. Okay, now I saved the lowest quality motor for last. Now of all these motors I've shown you, and all the motors that I have for the most part, this is the lowest quality one. Yep, some of you might be shocked, some of you shouldn't be. LRP ZR.32 Spec 4. Garbage motor. This is the best part about the motor. The best quality of this motor, unfortunately, is just the cooling head. That's it. Now, when you start looking at the crank is, it's okay. It's not bad. Okay, crank's not bad. I mean, there's certain parts of it that are okay. Button head, nothing to write home about. Standard. Okay. Piston, yeah, it's okay. I've seen better. This one's brand new still. Remember, I just barely broken it in. It's okay. Nothing. The back plate, I think, is... I don't know why they did that. Shitty design. But it is what it is. That's not a very smooth back plate. It's got all these ridges and shit cut into it. And it's kind of just plain Jane. I mean, you can even look at the front of the bearing. On the front of the block of the motor. Just some generic bearing. You know? Not like Reds. I mean, Reds are running, you know, quality bearings in there. Same with the, you know, the Picos are actually running decent bearings in there. This bearing, this motor is just not good quality. I mean, you look at the top of it, it just looks like it's just the casting or the molding is just shit. Yeah. Now here I want to show you, this is what a shitty ass sleeve looks like. This is the problem with these motors. Again, let me get a good focus. Shitty, look at the ports. Shitty port work. Look at that. Bullshit. You can see where eventually, because of that shitty jagged port work, that those pieces will chip off. If these little pieces chip off into your motor, it will destroy your motor. Period. Shitty port work. Rick says 2 out of every 10 LRP, these brand new LRP .32s that he mods, are fucked up. He had one he showed me where the inside of the sleeve looked like a fucking, like it seized. It had a big notch in it. He had to read. And when you run your finger through the middle, it should be smooth. When I run my finger through the middle of this thing, I can feel it grab my finger because of the porting, the shitty port. It's just jagged, man. I mean, look at that. Garbage. Garbage. Whoever's doing the porting at LR, whoever was doing these LRP port jobs, making these ports, should be fired. Shitty. So overall, this LRP .32 is shitty quality, man. This Osma made in Taiwan is better quality than that. So shit, good, the best, great. Carburetor wise, shitty carburetor, decent carburetor. The OS carburetor is really good, the best. Novarossi carburetor is hands down the best. So, if you don't run one of these, I suggest. This is going to make the difference between your motor lasting or not. Otherwise, do what you want. Run your shitty air filters. And just, if you can put a motor saver and the outerwear, get it. It'll protect your shit. So anyway, there you go. Quality versus quantity versus shitty motor work. You know, this is why I am the way I am about motors. This is the most important thing, because without this, your shit ain't going nowhere. It ain't even gonna start. So anyway, that's over an hour. That's a long video, but I hope you guys learned something out of this. I just wanted to kind of show you, when you're upkeeping and maintaining your motor, these motors I have to go through. Things that you look for, this is, you know, you don't want them burning like that. That's too much. That means it's running too rich. You're either going to have to pull a shim out if you have one, or maybe you are just running your motor too rich. And I don't want you to run it don't run it too lean, but this is what it should look like. This is a perfect example of what your fire chamber, your button head should look like. This is how your piston, perfect piston. See that light gray area? That means that it's just right. If you don't have, if that gray area is really big, that means you're running too rich. If it's really tiny, you're running too, if it's too big, the gray area is too big, it means you're running too lean. Okay, if this little gray area, that little gray area right there, is too small, it means you're running too rich. Keep that in mind. These are important, man. You need to upkeep and learn. You got to learn this shit and take care of your motor. Clean it out. When you run a swab, I run a cotton swab through my motor, through the back of the motor. Here, I'll show you. Right in here. When you run this cotton swab, I don't know if you guys can see down in there. when you run it in here, run it around in here, if it comes out like a oily color, that's fine. But if it comes out really dark and shit, that means there's dirt in there. That means you need to pull your crank out, clean your bearings out, put your finger in here, roll it around. If it's nice and smooth, obviously it's still good. If it starts to bind when you run your finger back and forth on your bearing, or it feels gritty, either clean it out really good or replace them. Get a bearing puller, I suggest. Anyway, hope that wasn't too much for some of you guys, but just wanted to go over some of that stuff. It's very important. We're going to get into some more upkeep and maintaining of shit. We still got a little bit of tuning to learn and other stuff, but mostly the maintaining and upkeep. Okay, that is important for your shit to last, to run right, to perform right, to tune, you know, and for less headaches. If you don't maintain and upkeep and take care of your shit, you're going to have more, excuse my language, fucking headaches than you're already going to run into in nitro as it is. The nitro is not easy. If it was easy, everybody'd be doing it. Okay? But the rewards that you can get out of nitro, once you get the basics down, are by far, far, far way better than E-word. Nothing smells, feels, or sounds like 8-scale nitro. The realism of a real vehicle compared to some buzzing sound of a frickin' sewing machine shit like E-word. That's why I do this. If you don't like tinkering, if you don't like the realism of it, then go do E-word. But if you like the realism, the tinkering, you like wrenching on shit, making your shit better, you know, and the smell and the sound and everything like that, man, this is it. There isn't nothing else. This is it right here, people. This is real shit. The real deal Holyfield, okay? Anyway, that's all the Muggy's got. That's a long-ass video, so I hope you guys learned something. I think that video should be long because that's a lot of shit, and you need to learn this shit and get good at it because that is going to help you in the long run. So anyway, that's all I got. Shout out to all the newbies, you know, all my new brat brothers, new subscribers. Hey, if you're not running your shit, your shelf queens or whatever, make sure that piston set at bottom dead center, after run oil in there, and don't fuck your shit up. So that's all the Muggy Maniacs got. Hope you guys learn. And if you guys have any other questions and comments, feel free to ask me, man. I try to help and address, and I'll even make videos just because, you know, and that's why I made this video, because I've seen a lot of guys dealing with a lot of these issues of clutches and electronical shit and asking me about servo and all that shit. So anyway, I hope I helped you guys out. So that's all I got. Muggy's out. Peace.